Hello and welcome to another episode of Snakes Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, maybe leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. I am Jesse Friedman alongside Jack Sommers. And Jack, it was not all that long ago that people were asking questions about Merrill Kelly. A very rough start to the season after coming off the injured list, but I think it is safe to say there's no reason to ask questions at this point. Merrill Kelly, for the first time in his career, has tossed a complete game. D-backs beat the Rockies by a final score of 9-1.
I was very tempted to delete a tweet I sent earlier tonight, but thought that would be lame and not very intellectually honest. People were talking about some rankings of starting pitchers and D-back starting pitchers from something that came out, I think, on The Athletic. And I was asked to rank who I thought, was top to bottom. And I just used numbers and played around with my own projections. And statistically, Merrill came out last. So I said, well, Soroka projects out the best and Merrill projects out the worst right now. So that's the way I'm going to go with the numbers. And I certainly regret that tweet, boy. But I do not regret what Merrill Kelly did it all tonight. Fabulous to watch and really very happy for him.
He was the model of efficiency, Jack. Of course, you sort of have to do that in order to throw a complete game, especially when Torey Lovullo is your manager. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. But he had 4 separate innings where he was in the single digits for pitch count, including a 4-pitch eighth. Merrill had 78 pitches through 7 innings, and then he got 3 outs on 4 pitches in the 8th inning. Frankly, the Rockies did not do themselves any favors in preventing this. There was a whole lot of chase outside the zone. Not a whole lot of swing and miss, Jack, just 3 strikeouts from Merrill Kelly. But that's part of why he was able to stay in this game for as long as he did. It was just a lot of quick outs and a lot of soft contact.
The defense was on point. I mean, one of the things Merrill was just talking about on air with Jody was, hey, this was a team victory. Obviously, the tower catch at the end up against the wall was fabulous, but there were a lot of good plays in this game. Some that might not have really stood out, a couple that did. I have a few exclamation points on my scorecard. Besides that one, I had 1 or 2 for Perdomo. I thought he did a pretty good job of nailing very speedy Jake McCarthy on one play. So, and just there were no mistakes. I mean, they played clean. They made every play they were supposed to make. And it was an excellent all-around defensive effort. But the other thing, when the offense goes off like that, I just immediately, like in the first inning, I remember thinking as Merrill came out in his half of the first and throwing strikes, how he pitched downhill against the Dodgers in game 1 of the NLDS after he was staked to that big lead. And that's like just what the doctor ordered for this strike thrower, like against an aggressive team that's going to swing a lot early. Just pump in those strikes. Don't worry about a Goodman home run. Just keep firing them in there. And it was the perfect formula with a nice big fat lead. And so that's the first thing that went to my mind was that start that Merrill had when he exercised those demons in Dodger Stadium.
You mentioned just throwing strikes and just how big that was for Merrill in this game. He hasn't been doing that in 2026. I mean, that was kind of the central storyline for Merrill out of the gate in those first few starts when he was throwing maybe a few more strikes than balls each game, but the ratio was just not what you were looking for. You look at his game log, his first outing of the season against the Orioles, 86 pitches, only 46 strikes. His second outing against the White Sox, a really rough one, 56 strikes and 101 pitches, then 58 strikes and 104 his next time out. He was in the 50s his last 2 times out as well, including that start against the Mets, his last time out, which was great. I mean, Merrill went 7 innings, only allowed 1 run. But, I mean, you compare that game where Merrill threw 58 strikes out of 96 pitches to today, where he threw 73 out of 100 pitches. And yes, the Rockies certainly had a part to play there. They were aggressive. I mean, they're always aggressive, but they were aggressive kind of inexplicably, especially as Merrill continued to go deeper and deeper in this game. A 47% chase rate from Merrill Kelly. I mean, that is an extremely, extremely high number. But you gotta hand it to Merrill for being able to throw pitches where he wants to. And that is a really big part of his game. Certainly, it was 74% today in first pitch strikes. That's kind of the whole deal for Merrill, Jack. It's been his thing throughout his career, and the fact that he appears to be getting his command back, I mean, that gives you a lot of confidence for really what the rest of this season could look like for him.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing as we're looking at it, I mean, I actually see 10 quote unquote hard hit balls out of 28 balls put in play. And it didn't feel like that, did it, Jesse? I mean, it seemed like it was a lot more soft contact even than that. But yes,
Yeah,
obviously throwing strikes up front is the number one thing for Merrill. He's got to get ahead.
there were several at the end. I mean, if you look at the last like innings 8 and 9, there were 4 that were over 95 miles per hour off the bat. But Kyle Karros, one of those was a ground ball with a -3-degree launch angle. Mickey Moniak, that double in the ninth inning, he hit that 108 off the bat. And then Edouard Julien, that really nice play by Tim Tawa you referenced earlier, that was 98 miles an hour off the bat. So there was a little bit more hard contact later in the game. But by and large, I mean, it was a lot of soft contact and a lot of swings just early in counts.
Okay. Hey, by the way, I just got to answer at Talking Snakes here. I know we are celebrating Merrill dominating, but I need a Nolan apology from Jack. Dude, you just outed yourself as somebody that doesn't watch every show, because I've done that at least twice in the last 3 shows. So, I've been there already, talked about that actually, I think in our very last show, quite a bit. So we'll get on to the offense and Nolan in a little bit. But yes, I did not think Nolan was going to hit well this year. And I have acknowledged on multiple occasions that he is doing a lot of things that I didn't think he was going to be able to do. And I'm very happy and overjoyed to see it.
A few more numbers on this Merrill Kelly complete game, Jack. This was Merrill's 178th big league start and his first complete game at age 37. The last complete game by a Diamondback at Coors Field happened back in 2013 when Patrick Corbin did it. That was a really, really good season for Patrick Corbin. And just looking at the history of D-backs complete games, it was kind of interesting to me. This was the 125th complete game in D-backs history, so it's not like it's a super exclusive club necessarily, but 33 of those were Randy Johnson. And and when you look at the Torey Lovullo era, this was just the 7th D-backs complete game in the Torey Lovullo era, and that goes back a full decade at this point to 2017. Of course, the most recent one was Brandon Pfaadt, who did it in 2025. Zach Gallen did it back in 2023 out at Wrigley Field. But yeah, specifically with Torey Lovullo, Jack, I mean, I know part of the scarcity in recent years is just trends around the game. Complete games are certainly becoming less common at large. But part of it you feel also is that Torey Lovullo likes to be conservative, and especially at Coors Field. I wondered if Torey Lovullo was going to do the thing where it's like, all right, it's Coors Field. We're playing at elevation. We want to be careful. And we didn't feel it was worth the risk when you had an 8-run lead. In one sense, maybe you could have understood that, but at least for me, Jack, that would not have sat well if Torey Lovullo had gone that direction tonight.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was made pretty clear by Merrill that, Torey was going to let him go after it and go get it. So it wasn't really that much of an issue. The pitch count was under control. I just want to say that the Diamondbacks typically are actually among the leaders in innings pitched per game by starting pitchers. They just don't usually go 9, but they're
Yeah.
usually in the top 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams, as long as they have the horses and the talent. They're usually amongst the leaders in innings pitched per game started. You can look that up on Baseball Reference. It's most year, I think 7 or 8 out of 10 years, they're definitely in the top 10 and often in the top 5. So it's kind of a mix, right? Like he lets his starters go deep, but again, remember this, medical team and the front office and the way they analyze pitcher workload, Torrey's given a lot of guidelines. And if he, throws them all in the garbage all the time, every time a guy gets close to going 9, he's probably going to run into some trouble with the front office. But it's still his call. He manages the game. It's up to him to make that decision. He doesn't color outside the lines. He's actually used that phrase. I don't color outside the lines when it comes to the guidelines he gets from the medical team. And so that's the way this organization's run.
I'm looking at those numbers right now. The Diamondbacks starting pitching staff ranks 15th. So right smack dab in the middle in innings pitched this season at 231. I believe that is updated after this game for Merrill. But it has been a bit of a roller coaster ride for that group, Jack, because just a couple of weeks ago, there were 2 turns through the rotation where it felt like nobody could get out of the 4th. And here we are with Torey Lovullo just having these weekly decisions to make about whether he's willing to let his starting pitcher throw a complete game. We were just having this discussion with Eduardo Rodriguez just a few days ago. So things have really turned around dramatically for the starting pitching staff, Jack, and it's hard to make sense of just the ebbs and flows that we've seen this season.
Yeah, there was, I think, an 11-game stretch where the bullpen threw 55 innings and the rotation threw like 44. So that was about execution and not pitching well. It had nothing to do with the manager. And that's a big part of it too, right? Like, what's the talent you have on hand? How well are they pitching and so forth? That's definitely part of it. But, at the same time, certainly these discussions where you're sitting on pins and needles wondering if the manager's going to let him go for it, it makes for a difficult story and a difficult narrative. And there are times when they just need to back off and let the pitcher go. The Eduardo Rodriguez case was a little bit more borderline, I think, than this one, just because of the way that outing was going and where the game was at. This was a different story. They had more wiggle room, even though it was Coors Field and even though it was elevation. Unfortunately, they're playing 23 games in 24 days, so there's no extra day in there to give Merrill an extra day off. So I'm almost guaranteeing you he's going to be clipped at 90 pitches no matter what he does next time out.
I want to get into the offense here in a second. I know people are talking about Nolan and Ildemaro Vargas in the chat. We'll certainly get to a big night for the offense as well. But I'm curious, Jack, D-backs right now, this starting pitching staff sitting at 22nd in ERA right now at 4.44. For the rest of the season, is your confidence level higher than that? I mean, given what we've seen the last couple turns and how it feels like everyone but Zach Gallen is pretty locked in right now, or do you feel like that is pretty representative of where this group stands?
Well, I mean, I'm not even going to bother going and looking up all the peripherals and the X stats right now. I think that it's all part of the body of work, right? The fact that they pitched pretty well, but were kind of outperforming their peripherals, then they were absolutely horrible for, a couple of turns. And now it's 2.5 turns where they've been lights out. That level of inconsistency sure makes it difficult to project who's going to be good, who's not, where are things going to be a month from now. The fact that they are able to get on a run like this, though, obviously is extremely encouraging. And they just got to keep doing it. Maybe not quite as great as they've been on this kind of run. I mean, like teams do have these kinds of runs for 2-3 weeks where you can't touch their rotation. And then they come back down to earth, and that's what I expect. It's a long season. This is only game 43.
Yeah, that is fair. That is fair. We've just passed the 1/4 mark of this 2026 season. Diamondbacks sitting at 21-22 after this win over the Rockies. As we referenced earlier, Merrill Kelly being so good in this game, certainly getting a big lead from the get-go. The first time he took the mound, he was already up 6 runs. D-backs offense deserves a lot of credit as well for what they were able to do. We're going to talk about that offense as well as some other topics on the other side of this break. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Snakes Territory.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. So, are you ready to play your game? Head over to fanduel.com/podcast to get started. That's fanduel.com/podcast to opt in for daily dingers. Make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball. Swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
Well, before we jump into our next segment, we want to say thank you to all of you for being here in the chat. We really appreciate you being here. Be sure to drop a like on this video. It really helps us out. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon for notifications so that you never miss an episode of the show. And if you're joining us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, one of those audio-only platforms, shout out to you. We really appreciate you as well. And it really goes a long way for us if you'd consider leaving us a 5-star review. So thank you to all of you for being here with us, for supporting the show. We really, really appreciate it. Well, Jack, it was a huge day for the offense. The first inning did not necessarily get off to a big start. Kyle Freeland had 2 outs on a matter of 9 pitches. And it appeared the inning was going to end right there because Corbin Carroll, for a moment, had been caught stealing. And that was the end of the first inning until it wasn't, because the Diamondbacks challenged. Carroll was, the call was overturned on replay review. And it ultimately took 33 more pitches for Kyle Freeland to get out of the first of 42 pitch inning in total. When all was said and done, D-backs put 6 runs on the board. It was a Nolan Arenado walk, an Ildemaro Vargas RBI single. Gabriel Moreno hit a 2-run single later in the inning. Jose Fernandez hit an RBI double. Ryan Waldschmidt hit a 2-run single. And then finally, Ketel Marte struck out to end the frame. So pretty impressive inning there for the Diamondbacks, Jack. And all of that damage happening with 2 outs.
Yeah, there was, there were some people that I was chatting with, my friends over at azsnakepit.com, and it was brought up about, should Corbin have even been running there? And he was lucky that that was overturned. I mean, any base hit in that stadium, Corbin's going to score from second anyway. So he didn't really need to steal third base there. I realize it's Corbin Carroll, and he's a great base stealer, but they got a little lucky there. I mean, that could have been the end of that inning. It could have been a very different ball game were it not for that. But he got in, and so, and off they went. Nolan, I mean, that was the first of 4 walks that he took. His WRC plus is now up to 129. Now here we go. I'm going to get yelled at.
Wouldn't be the first time.
So that brought his WOBA up to 359.
Wow.
Coming into the game, he had a 344 WOBA with a 317 X WOBA. So, some of the results he's getting, maybe, some of the contact isn't the hardest, but he's getting plenty of hard contact when he needs it. Hit a ball, I think 105 miles an hour today for the double.
Yeah.
And, he's hit the ball, obviously, over the fence 6 times. So, this is whether he stays around 129, that would be unbelievable. That would be phenomenal. But, I mean, if he ends the year 110, 120, that's just such a total win. They're only paying him $5 million. I wrote a article today at Arizona Diamondbacks on SI where I graded Mike Hazen's offseason. And the Nolan Arenado trade got an A, obviously. And a lot of that was, the acquisition cost was very low to get him. It didn't cost him very much. Yeah. So, kudos to him for having the bounce back. The only thing that I'll say, not wavering, because my early doubts were based in fact. I mean, his exit velocities had collapsed. But I did say at that time that sometimes formerly great hitters and players have what they call a dead cat bounce. I think some people might remember that phrase. And, guys that were great in their 20s and early 30s that go into decline sometimes have that, big bounce back year in their middle 30s. So this could be it for Nolan, and that would be absolutely fabulous for this team. I mean, they really need it. And it's really good to see him in the fourth spot in the order, too. That was long overdue. We talked about that last show, about getting Del Castillo out of the fourth spot and moving Nolan up. So, again, kudos to Torrey to finally make the right move there.
This was Nolan Arenado's first career game having 4 walks, which kind of blew my mind. And, anytime you draw 4 walks, like absolutely Nolan Arenado deserves some credit. I will say, looking at, this is a chart of every pitch that Nolan saw in this game. By my count, there were 20 of them, and 3 of them were in the strike zone. So 3 out of 20 were pitches in the zone. So, maybe some of these walks were Nolan just kind of taken 4 or 5 pitches and then taken his base, and he didn't necessarily have to fight off a bunch of pitches or anything in order to make it happen. And yes, for people in the chat saying that the score is backwards, I don't know what you're talking about, because if you look now, it says Diamondbacks 9, Rockies 1. So I don't know what you're referring to. I think you're going crazy. But yes, all this to say, Nolan Arenado, Jack, has not been drawing walks has not really been a big part of his game really throughout his whole career. Even in his best days, Nolan Arenado did have some years with above average walk rates, but it was never way above average. His walk rate this season is now 9.7%. That is his highest walk rate in any year since 2018, when it was just over 10%. That was a year when he hit over 40 home runs, way back in his prime with the Colorado Rockies. So he's drawn a lot of walks right now, Jack. He's seen a lot of pitches. The chase rate is basically right around the league average, which for him is really good. We talked about that coming into the season, that he can get a little swing happy at times. The quality of the at-bat has been really great, and he's hitting the ball hard too. I mean, that one hit that he had in this game was no cheap shot, a double, 105 miles per hour down the left field line. It's a good thing the D-backs moved him up to the cleanup spot, because he has been their best hitter for about a month now.
It was pretty funny, actually, and ironic. During the pregame, some people might have noticed that Jody interviewed him, and he talked about the fact that he's not really trying to go deep in counts and work the counts. He's hunting for pitches that he can hit. And he even deferred. He said, it's amazing what Geraldo Perdomo can do, extending at bats and, just fouling off pitches and getting deep in the counts. He said, that's not me. That's not what I do. I have to play to my strength. So pretty ironic that he drew 4 walks on the day that he was talking about that.
I don't know if, I know it's early. It's really too early to be making these kinds of comparisons, but just thinking about other third base options that we talked about in the offseason, Alex Bregman, Jack, has a 101 WRC plus right now, and Nolan Arenado has a 129. Some people talking about, should the D-backs have brought Eugenio Suarez back? You look at his numbers for the season, he is sitting at an 84 WRC plus, has been below replacement level at this point. So obviously it's much too early in the season to really be evaluating these moves in a big picture sense. But up to this point, Nolan Arenado has been everything the D-backs could possibly have hoped for and more. And boy, does it feel like a distant memory, Jack, that we were talking about, how maybe he shouldn't be in the lineup on a regular basis anymore. He started the year 8 for 48. He had 1 walk to 13 strikeouts in that span. And since then, he has an OPS well over 1,000, and he's basically walked just as much as he struck out since then.
Yeah, I want to address, exactly what our Ernesto Esquer is talking about. Sorry about my pronunciation. I'm terrible. But Nolan is crediting his work with the hitting coaches for this bounce back, right? I thought I read that somewhere. If so, it's amazing how they were able to squeeze this out of him, and Gino as well. The Diamondbacks have good hitting coaches. At the end of the day, that the talent in the lineup is the most important thing. But they've been able to squeeze a lot of juice out of hitters over the last few years. And I just think that Joe Mather is a really good hitting coach. Now, when a team goes in a slump like they did the first half of May, there's a lot of people already out there calling fire the hitting coaches, and but if you look at the bigger body of work where this team has been offensively, what they've been able to get out of players, how they've been able to help certain guys get turned around, whether it was Corbin Carroll and Gino back in 24, what they got out of Jock Peterson in 24, what they were able to squeeze out of last year's offense. Even some of the guys, after the trade deadline that kind of hit above their weight from August onwards. He's a good hitting coach, and so is his assistant hitting coaches. I mean, those guys really know what they're doing. They work really hard. They're always out there just busting it with these guys at the batting cages. So, kudos to them. It's easy to say that on a night you score 9 runs at Coors Field with, a pitcher with an 88-mile-an-hour fastball coming off an injury on the mound. I called this as like the stars were aligned. If anyone happens to read my Twitter, the comment in Coors Field, how well they do against lefties, the fact that it was Kyle Freeland, who they banged around all throughout his career. All of those factors, lined up perfectly for a good offensive night. But they did what they were supposed to do tonight. They got him out of the game after beating him up early. And this is what, good hitting coaches help the hitters do.
This game very much felt like a continuation of what the D-backs did against the Rangers on Wednesday. Even though that was a really rough game, the way that it ended, the quality of the at-bat for the Diamondbacks there was just on a different level than what we'd seen earlier in that series and what we'd seen really for the whole month of May, it felt like. It's just been a really rough stretch for this offense. I think it was 8 walks or something like that they drew in that game, a lot of long at-bats. And yeah, the Diamondbacks, to their credit, were able to continue that here at Coors Field. Other than Nolan Arenado, Jack, a couple other hitters who want to highlight. Of course, Ildemaro Vargas is one of them. Ildemaro Vargas laughs at your talk of regression to the mean. Not talking just about you, Jack, but talking about me, talking about all of us here. Ildemaro Vargas 4 for 5 in this game with a double and 2 runs batted in. He helped the D-backs pad their lead a little bit later on. He is now hitting .347 on the season with a .945 OPS. And just when we think that it's all sort of catching up to him and he's coming back down to earth, Vargas goes out there and has a game like this.
Yeah, another mea culpa. I actually had a long debate with somebody about whether or not he was a Luis Arraez type, because Luis Arraez also tends to chase a bit. But not as much as Vargas has. I mean, Vargas came in, I think, with a 43% chase rate, which is generally unsustainably high.
Yeah.
Like basically nobody chases that much and hits for average. There's some power hitters out there that chase that much and manage to still knock enough homers to give positive offensive value. Not too many of them. Salvi Perez comes to mind, maybe. But, there's very few that can chase like that and make it work. But he is. And don't ask me how. Just shut up and enjoy the ride, Jack.
I didn't realize it was that high. 43.3% coming into today. That is a wild number. And what's really stuck out to me watching Vargas more and more is the reason that number is so high is because when he gets into a 2-strike count, he swings at everything. It doesn't matter if it is 2 feet outside or 2 feet up above the zone. He is going to swing and he is going to find a way to make contact. And it feels like his strategy is to just sort of keep doing that, just keep wasting every pitch he possibly can, no matter where it is, until he eventually gets something over the plate that he can actually do damage with. So, he's always been a little bit chase happy, but his 2-strike approach in general, Jack, has felt almost comedic at times, where it's like, I don't know why he's swinging at that, but somehow he's able to get the bat on it every single time. And eventually, if you're able to just waste enough pitches, you can kind of wear down the pitcher and eventually get the pitch you're looking for.
He's only got a 10% strikeout rate, which in the modern game is microscopic. I mean, that's less than half the league average, 22%. So, I mean, he's putting the bat on the ball, putting it in play, and a lot of times, I mean, it's not like they're just dribblers that are sneaking through. He roped a line drive single right up the middle. I mean, that I thought he was going to take the pitcher's head off. So, it's just incredible to watch. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just going to continue to enjoy the ride for as long as we possibly can.
Another hitter that stuck out to me here in this one was Gabriel Moreno, a guy the D-backs really need to get going. Even after his 2-for-5 game today, he's still at 228 with a 630 OPS. But he had the 2-run single in the first inning that I mentioned earlier. He also had the 2-run double in the 7th inning. That was a particularly nice swing from him, going to right center field. I think it was a changeup, or actually it was a slider that was low and away. It was actually a really good pitch, and Moreno was able to get underneath it and drive it to the opposite field 100 miles per hour off the bat, a 20-degree launch angle. That was a really nice swing from him, Jack, and maybe a sign of better days to come for Moreno.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to come around, right? They absolutely need him. You pointed out to me the other day, he had 118 OPS plus last year. I think 108 for his career. I was looking up catchers since 2023. Now, his home run and RBI totals aren't very high among the catcher ranks, but he's got, I think, the highest batting average from 23 to 25 amongst catchers. And he's right there in the top 10, basically, in OPS plus, on base percentage, I think is also first or second or, amongst catchers. So, I mean, he's got the capability to be a very high producing offensive catcher. The combination of injury woes have kept his counting stats down. So people look at his home runs and RBIs, they're not very impressed. But bottom line is there's no reason that he should not be an above league average hitter. And they really need that kind of production from that spot in the lineup. Interesting also that Torrey's been using him a lot more. He caught 3 games in a row for the first time this year, this past week. Then they had the day off yesterday, and he caught today. So, he'll probably get tomorrow off, and then he'll probably catch the series finale on Sunday, I would guess. Maybe he'll catch tomorrow and take Sunday off. I'm not sure. Both games are day games. So, most likely he takes off tomorrow, day game after night.
The Diamondbacks are in a stretch here, playing 23 games in 24 days, which is obviously a bit of an undertaking. And that leads us into our next topic here, Jack, which is that the Diamondbacks pitching staff, by covering as many innings as they have, the starting rotation is who I'm referring to here, by covering all the innings that they have here in recent days, they have managed to really save the bullpen. We talked about this in a recent episode, looking at how many games and innings is Ryan Thompson on pace for, and Juan Murillo on pace for, and some of these key relievers at the back end. And the numbers were a little bit concerning. The D-backs are really leaning on those guys a lot. And because of what the starters have done here in the last couple of weeks, those numbers for the relievers have returned back to a more reasonable range.
Yeah, we did those numbers. I think I wrote an article about that back on April 29th. So, if you look at the last 16 days, it's really brought down the on-pace games and innings. Now, a few guys are still a little bit high, but for example, Ryan Thompson, he was on pace for over 90 games. Taylor Clark, Juan Murillo, and Jonathan Loaisiga were all on pace for over 80 games. Kevin Ginkel and Paul Sewald were in the 70s. So right now, you have Ryan Thompson on pace for 75, Taylor Clark 72, Juan Murillo still kind of high at 75 game pace and 70 innings paced. Jonathan Loaisiga, Kevin Ginkel, and Paul Sewald all on pace for 68 games and low 60s, high 50s innings total. So that's all starting to get more in line. Brandon Garcia, I used his numbers, minors, majors combined. And Brandon Pfaadt, I just have his his reliever numbers showing here. I'm not sure if I did the pace correctly on him. There was a question in the chat earlier about why hasn't Fought pitched recently, but he pitched 3 innings, 39 pitches on Tuesday. And the odds are that he'll probably pitch on Sunday or if need be.
Looking ahead to the rest of the weekend here, Jack, it is Eduardo Rodriguez against Sagano for the Colorado Rockies on Saturday. Erod, of course, coming off that spectacular game where he nearly threw a complete game against the New York Mets, 8 1/3, 1 run allowed. And that one, his ERA for the season is down to 2.25. And I guess you just kind of have to hope here that this starting rotation continues to be in this very nice rhythm and go out there and give you 6 or 7 innings and a pretty good chance to win day in, day out. If you could combine that with an offense that seems to have found its footing here in the last couple of days, maybe the D-backs can actually go on a run here, Jack. This is a golden opportunity for them, a span of 13 games against just the Rockies and the Giants. This is where you want to go out there and make your move. You want to go 9-4 or something like that. As opposed to just going 7-6 and kind of hovering right around 500.
Well, it's even well beyond this 13-game stretch against Rockies and Giants. I mean, we recently discussed the 37-game stretch. That included the Rangers, unfortunately, who just took a series from them. But, overall, if you look starting from, the beginning of the Rangers series, you look at like a 37, 38-game stretch. The only teams with winning records that they're supposed to face are the Dodgers and the Pirates. And the Pirates are only 1 or 2 games over 500. So, it's more than just these 13 games. They've got to really make their mark on this race between now and middle June. They have to sustain, a lot of winning and get themselves a buffer. They need to get to 5, 6, 7, 8 games over 500 over the next 35 games. I don't know if that's doable or not, but that's really what they need to put those wins in the bank.
Is the Ildemaro Vargas write-in campaign, is that alive and well once again here, Jack?
It looks like it. It sure is. I mean, again, they don't start putting out the ballots until first week of June, I believe, this year. But everybody gear up for that because we'll be talking about it every single episode, as much as we possibly can for as long as we can.
I mean, even if there was some regression, he's hitting 347 now with a 945 OPS. So, there's a little bit of room for Ildemaro to come back down to earth and still have a pretty strong case there. Who knows? Maybe Nolan Arenado gets in that conversation as well. He is now hitting 279 with an 814 OPS after reaching base in all 5 plate appearances in this game. Pretty remarkable stuff. Well, that is all that we have for this Friday night edition of Snakes Territory. We really appreciate all of you being here with us. Be sure once again to drop a like on this video and subscribe to our channel here on YouTube. It helps us out a lot. And leave us a comment if you're watching after the fact. We always enjoy hearing from you. If you haven't found us on social media yet, I am at Jesse N. Friedman on Twitter. Jack is at ShoeWizard59. And our show is at Snakes Territory. You can find Jack's written work covering the Diamondbacks over at Arizona Diamondbacks on SI. Jack, any final thoughts here as we say goodbye and head into the weekend?
I'm just really happy for all our listeners and the folks that joined us here in the chat that we were able to join you guys for a happy occasion on a postgame tonight. And again, have a safe and wonderful weekend, everyone.
Well, congratulations once again to Diamondbacks right-hander Merrill Kelly, who throws his first complete game in the big leagues at 37 years young. Big day for him, and we'll see if the D-backs can continue this positive momentum over the weekend in Colorado. Thank you again to all of you for being with us. We really appreciate your time, and we'll be back with another edition of Snakes Territory very, very soon.